here as we hang out with one of my men's friends and mentors, Dan Borrero, in the building. What's up, homie?
What's going on, Mr. Haskins?
It's good to see you. Good to be seen.
Yo,
I
let's
am
talk about your that saying you have on there, man, because I think it's something that needs to be spoken about.
producer over consumer, and it's not no one's better or worse. Well, Dan, when did you first understand what a producer was?
Going back to what is it, grade school, you start learning about parasites, right? So consumers consume from what the producer is, right? Whatever that food source is. So producers are people like you and I that produce housing, that produce jobs. We produce we create generational wealth, right? Not as much for ourselves but for society, right?
Yeah,
Like what we're doing now, between all the YouTube videos that you put out for absolutely free, right? And my free mentorship class that I do every single Wednesday night, we're producing the ability to generate generational wealth, right? When we see mentees, people that follow us, start creating wealth that they are now going to leave for their offspring.
mm.
I mean, it goes much deeper, right? So, do you guys want? We everybody needs to make a decision. Do you want to live off the fat of the land, or do you want to? It's like, do you want to learn how to fish, or you want someone to give you the fish?
It's something, Dan. It's a mindset, dude. Every day I wake up, I must produce. I must produce. And I think you just, in life, it's almost like you just, a switch goes on. Like, if I don't kill at the end of the day, I just ain't gonna eat, man. It's just how it is.
At the end of the day, Kris Haskins and I, all entrepreneurs, we go out and we hunt.
Yeah.
If we are not successful hunters, our families don't eat.
Don't eat. It's something, right?
You know,
I
it,
don't think people understand the stress.
no, but
That's why I won't gamble.
eh, eh, we gamble every day, Chris.
Insta.
You,
So
you
tonight,
and I gamble every day with our investments, right? But
uh,
when we gamble, the odds are on our side because of the work that we've done in studying the deal before we actually execute it, right?
I like that.
When we go to Atlantic City or to Vegas, the odds are on the house side. And proof of the pudding is, how many millions of dollars did they spend making that hotel and that casino so beautiful so that you want to walk
Mhm.
in there, right? How many millions of dollars do they have on payroll, paying all those people, watching the surveillance cameras, paying the
Wow.
pit boss, paying the dealers, paying the maintenance people, the cleaning people, the
Wow.
security guards? How many? Think about that. The maids that are cleaning the room,
Payroll.
the people who check you in, right? The
Wow.
bellboys, the parking lot people. There are millions and millions of dollars spent to build it. There's multi millions of dollars maintaining it, and you're paying for it,
Wow. That's deep, Dan.
isn't it?
I just go. I enjoy going, but all I do is sit there and drink. Though I never gamble, man.
So I ain't gonna lie to you. My brother likes to play Texas Hold'em, and he and I, we have two different personalities. And I was in Puerto Rico. This was a couple of years ago, and my other cousin met up with us, and he doesn't gamble either. But we were just hanging out, watching my brother play Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, I'll
So
watch. I'll
yeah,
watch.
so the girl comes by and says, you want something to drink? And we're like, yeah. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So she comes by again and says, you want something to drink? And my cousin says, we don't pay for this. And I'm like, well, if we ain't paying for it, let me have a beer. So as cheap as I am, right? So I have a beer. And then she asked me if I want something to eat. And I'm like, all right. So we're eating, we're drinking, and we're just people watching, and we're having a
I
blast.
love it too.
Blast, just people watching at the casino
I could just watch the people all day.
all day. That was entertaining alone. Just watching who's a sucker, who's not the sucker. It's like, yeah, it's like, and then we're making, it was a
I
great time. But yeah, that's the only way you're gonna see me in the casino. I don't bet. I bet every day when I gamble. That's what I do every day is gamble.
Our whole lives are a gamble. So get your questions in the chat for Dan Borrero. Man's been in the business since '89. He invests in 2 or 3 states. He's a buy and hold guy, doing flipping wholesale on everything. But tonight, on Sunday nights, we just talked to you about. I would love to answer your questions, how to help you with an action plan. And not only that, but let you know what we're doing for the next few weeks. So I have a meetup tomorrow in Virginia Beach at 6:30. If you just go to meetup.com or Eventbrite, you can see it all there. And we start at 6:30 in Virginia Beach. Dan, what can people get from you this week?
I do my free mentorship class every single Wednesday night. You can sign up at danielborrerojr.com. And again, it's free to attend. It's free to sign up. You're not going to get any advertisements from me because I'm not selling you anything. Again, if you want to learn this business, you want to learn it from somebody who actually does it every day of the week, and somebody's been doing it since 1989. Please join us.
Yeah, that's cool. So Dan, what interesting thing happened to you last week? I know where I can it's 30 degrees here. I can only imagine what the temperature is in New York.
Today it was 27 degrees, but real feel with the wind chill factor was like 9 degrees.
Tell me about your mindset being a landlord in New York. And you don't just do single family. You've got buildings, you've got sewer lines, boilers, water lines, heaters, all this stuff. Tell me about just your daily mindset when the temperature gets low.
I got to tell you, I speak to other landlords and they tell me like when it gets this cold for consistent days like this, they're constantly worried about getting phone calls, right? Of like broken pipes or damage, some type of damage. And I don't sweat it. But I don't sweat it because we do a lot of preventive maintenance. And this is one of the things I try to tell people, I try to teach at my mentorship classes. You know, this is a business that we taking on a huge responsibility. We have a moral and ethical, besides a legal obligation, to maintain our buildings safe for our tenants.
Wow.
Um, People's lives are entrusted to you when you're a landlord. They're
Yeah.
entrusting their lives to you, making sure there's no lead paint, there's no galvanized pipes, there's no lead pipes, right? That the ceiling's not going to fall in, right? That there's going to be heat and hot water, the front of the walkway is going to be shoveled as soon as the snow and stops coming down. That's not going to be ice on the stairs. These are things, right? That there's sufficient lighting on the exterior of the building as well as interior of the building to deter the bad guys from wanting to do anything to you, right?
Yeah.
So, but the biggest thing that I do to avoid problems when the temperature comes down to this level is we do a lot of preventive maintenance, right? So in the fall time, in the beginning of fall, I'm calling up my plumbers. I'm having them check my boilers, right? I want you to come in and tune them up, clean them up, make sure everything's working, right? I'm not calling them when the boiler goes down and it's 10 degrees outside. I'm
Mm,
calling them before that to make sure that the boiler's constantly working, right?
wow.
So, I go around to the exterior of the buildings every spring, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for to make sure that all the caulking around the windows and the doors are all intact, that it's not cracking, right? If it is, I'm scraping it out. We're installing new caulking, right? When I renovate my buildings, I'm putting in R19 insulation, and I'm wrapping the pipes, the feed pipes, the water feed pipes with additional insulation, right?
Mhm.
So we're doing the work. We're putting in quality windows to make sure they're most efficient windows, right? We're doing the work to make sure we don't have catastrophes or major problems when the temperature drops to 3 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees. We're okay. We're good because we did all the work in the fall or in the spring.
Well, I saw you had to cut open the city street a few weeks ago, man. I mean, you can't catch everything.
So the reality is, I had a situation with a water main. Um,
What size is that?
that was an inch and a quarter water main.
Oh, for one building?
One building with only two apartments.
Two. Okay,
So
cool.
right. So my tenant called me up. She says, I noticed something, the wall's wet in the building. I called DEP, they come down, they put some apparatus to the wall and the pipe. They say, yeah, it's your water line, and this is where it's at. So
Wow.
the next day I had somebody come in, they dug up the street, pulled out the old water line, put in the new water line, 24 hour. And I made sure they did it. I called up my tenants and I said, listen, by the way, they're going to be there at 7 in the morning, but they're turning off the water at 8. So whatever you do, please do whatever you need to do with water before 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Now, was that the water company that did that?
No, I had to pay a water main company to come in and do that.
Somebody
So
that's on their list.
that's right.
Tell them about
But
that,
I
Dan.
actually didn't use somebody on their list. I called somebody else they've put in about 6, 7 water mains for me over the last 20 years.
So you can hire anybody you want to do the water
Anybody I
main?
want. Yeah. As
Oh,
long as they're
wow.
licensed and approved, it's fine. And they're insured, it's not a problem. But the
Okay.
thing was, come 8 o'clock, I was on the job site too. I was there at 6:30. Come 8 o'clock in the morning, I knocked on their door. I knocked on their door at 7:45, as well as text them and called them and said, listen, water's being off in 15 minutes. At 8 o'clock, I knocked on the door. The water's going off now. But by 3 o'clock, they had water. And it was great because those tenants had to go to work anyway. So by the time they came home, they had water again. Their day was not interrupted, not one iota.
Mm. So Deborah says you're a great landlord, Dan. Yeah, Dan, you are. I'm like, wow.
I appreciate that, Deborah.
What did that run for you, Dan? If you don't mind me asking, I don't want to push
That
too
was
hard.
about $6,000. Um, Now you can pull insurance on water lines in most states and sewer lines. Um,
Okay.
I chose not to have insurance, and I'll give you guys the reason why. Most of my buildings have brand new water. When I buy a building, I renovate them and I bring in new water mains. Water mains are good on average for about 30 to 50 years, minimal. So I don't carry insurance on those water mains because in most parts I installed them myself within the last 20 years.
Let me
This
no hold
particular
on, Dan. Or we're talking about water mains. We're talking about CPVC, or you talking about whatever y'all using? I don't know what you use up there.
copper
So you
in New
cop.
York,
Okay.
in New
All
York
right.
City, we use copper for that.
Okay.
So they, I don't pull the insurance because I figured out. I actually just figured this out a couple of weeks ago. I saved between all my properties about $40,000 in insurance premiums for water mains. So this particular property cost me $6,000. So I've saved over the last 15 to 18 years $40,000 between all my properties. So I
Mm,
looked at it like I self-insured myself. So I
hmm.
saved 40. Yes, it cost me 6, but I'm still ahead $34,000. 34,000 that I've invested over the years that's actually given me a bigger return than just 34,000.
I got it.
So what I'm saying is if you got one property, yes, it might be wise to insure it. But if you got multiple properties, something like that, you could self-insure yourself and make yourself even more money.
That's cool. Any questions, y'all? Put them in the chat for Dan Borrero or myself. Put the questions, real estate investing, anything you got. Put it in the chat, y'all. Don't be nervous. We got 40 people on here now. Don't be nervous on this thing.
No,
You hit the
by
thumbs
no
up too.
means. Yes, maintenance, upkeep is important. Look, I think personally, preventive maintenance is the biggest deterrent to having any major any major catastrophes, and it keeps your tenants in their apartments longer. It creates a loyalty from your tenants because they see that you're working on the building, you're cleaning the building, that you care about their health and their safety and their living environment, right? So my average tenancy in Brooklyn is about 9 years, where everyone else is about 18 months, right?
Mm,
And my rents are not cheap; they're at market rate. But when they call Dan Borrero, somebody's there that day or the day after. If they
mm.
move somewhere else, they don't know if that landlord's going to give them the same type of service.
So Finsta Babies wants to know, is it mandatory for insurance on that type of stuff in New Jersey or New York or Florida where you have your real estate, Dan? I guess he's talking about he or she water line or sewer line insurance.
I've never seen it to be mandatory,
Me
ever.
neither. I
Not that
haven't
I
either.
know of.
And then we've got Deborah has a question. In New Jersey, you can I had to replace my sewer line. In New Jersey, you can get $10,000 when you buy a home insurance. I don't know what that is.
So I'm assuming some policies may have that in it. But that I've none of my policies have that policy in it.
to get money.
I, yeah. Now, if the sewer line bursts and creates damage in the building, then I would get paid, and it's a whole lot more than $10,000 coverage. But um, I've never seen an insurance policy for a property, commercial insurance policy, or multifamily residential policy that will pay for replacement of a sewer line. But I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying I've never seen it.
So let me make sure that everybody is covered on this. Dan is in New York, New Jersey. I'm in Virginia. So my waterline insurance is $6.99 a month.
$6.99 a month.
$6.99 a month, and then I pay it quarterly. So I just want to make sure that everybody is covered here and they understand what the hell we're talking about. Because I'm presuming that ain't how it works and where you at.
No, it's probably I would say an estimated guess is probably about $50 a quarter, $60 a quarter. So if you do that, times four, you're at
$240.
$240 a year, and then that's just for the water line, not alone. Then the sewer lines are different. So let's say it adds up to $600-700 a year per property. If I times that by all the properties I have, that's how I came out to the $40,000 that it would
Yeah.
have cost me, right? So, again, so it cost me 6,000, but I saved 40,000 in premiums, so it really cost me 34,000. I'm still ahead.
So I just pick and choose for me. I know some of my properties, we've already fixed them. And what I want y'all to know, if you're doing a fix and flip, every time I do a fix and flip, I get water line and sewer line coverage because they'll recover that. I'm only going to own it for 6 months at the max, right? So it's like
Right.
if if the sewer line, because sometimes what happens when you're doing a flip, the water line will be corroded and they have low pressure. So then they'll come in and replace it for y'all. That's a tip for y'all, man. I hope you give me a thumbs up for that. Always get, if you're not going to hold the property and you're going to fix and flip it, just get the damn water line insurance.
Yeah, if it's a short period of time, why the hell not? Even the sewer line, right? You never know. Um, you know,
Get it?
talking about, I remember once I bought a property on the courthouse steps in Florida, and my contractor calls me up and says, "Yo, something's wrong with the sewer line." I said, "What's wrong with it?" He goes, "I don't know, man, but it's gurgling." And we just got here. It was the first day he was on there. So I said, "All right." So I called the plumber up. They sent the camera down, and this is very common. The people that were getting the house repossessed on, I guess they were pissed off, and they threw cement down the line before they left the house. So I had to replace that whole entire sewer line. That cost me like another $8,000. But was I upset? No. It's all figured into the numbers.
Nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's part of the job.
Nothing,
It's part of the hat we chose to put on that day.
nothing you can do. So what else happened, Dan? I,
Any other questions here?
oh, no, put your questions in, y'all. Get your questions in. Me and Dan will be here for a few more minutes.
Yeah, I can't stress enough to everyone. Preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance, preventive maintenance. You know, springtime comes along. Uh, I'm going around to all my buildings, making sure that my neighbors' trees their branches aren't coming over my house. I'm cleaning all the gutters, right? I'm making sure all the water drains in the yards are cleared and clean. I'll take off the cap, stick my hand down there, take out any gook that's there. We're power washing all the cement. We're going around looking if the winter was a really bad winter, if they created any cracks and any crevices of the cement going around the building. Why? Because
Good.
in the wintertime, mice try to get into the building trying to find a warm spot, and any little crevice they could get into.
Yep.
So I'm going around cementing everything. Everything's about preventive maintenance, right? We're cleaning out all the boiler rooms. Why? We're wiping everything down because the new boilers, they're very sensitive. Everything has all these electronic trips now, and they're very sensitive to dust. So I don't want that room to be dusty and then get a phone call that a boiler's not working because of a dust on a chip or a sensor, right?
Mm,
So we're cleaning. We're constantly cleaning, and then while we're cleaning, I get to see if there's anything that's major possibly coming up. And I'll give you an example. So last spring, right after the winter, one of my workers calls me up and says, "Listen," he sends me pictures. the gutter at such and such address on the left side is it's coming off. Well, I went up there and it was coming off. And I realized that the wood that it was nailed into was rotting away. Well, I called my roofer guy up. He comes and peels back the roof in that section, puts in new pressure treated wood, had the new gutter installed. But if he had not done, now the only reason he realized that was because he happened to be up there cleaning the gutters because we were doing our spring cleaning, right? If he had not realized that in huge torrential downstorms, that could have made a big difference. That could have created a big problem in the apartment below. So I
Mm-hmm.
got ahead of it. The only reason I was ahead of it was because we were up there cleaning gutters in the springtime,
That's
getting
sweet
ready
right
for the
there.
rainfall.
I just want everybody to know Dan does a lot of the preventative stuff. I don't do none of that stuff. I just so the reason we come on here, Dan has a different approach and a different exit strategy than I do. I operate my business more like a bank, and Dan is a landlord. So I want y'all to understand that. Question:
So
would you go
someone
ahead, Dan?
some someone's asking if we would put water insurance on our personal home. Maybe. I mean, look, I think it's a lot cheaper on your personal home versus a commercial property or investment property. Again, I don't carry any of that on my house, no. No.
No.
Now, I've been in my house for 26 years now, 27 years. Haven't had to change a water. I did put in a new water main when I moved in.
Are you good
And
then?
yeah, so I'm good. Like again, I don't. There's a reason why insurance companies make so much money because statistically they don't pay out.
But if if you if you have waterline insurance, Dan, and the waterline break, they gotta come fix it, dog. You think they ain't gonna come fix it?
I'll replace it, but like I said, water mains last about 30 to 50 years before they start giving you any problems, and even more longer than that. So someone's asking if you had new construction, would they get it? If I had new
No
construction, I
way.
wouldn't. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
you
pay
do.
for it because it's new construction. It's got a warranty already, right?
Yeah, I
Plus,
wouldn't
it's
even
new
do that.
construction, right? So now you ask me if I get it 20 years from now and I'm still in this house. Yeah, I'm going to get it. Of course, I'm going to get it because it's more likely that I'm going to have a problem.
AN says Dan's right with preventative maintenance. It saves you money. Now, if I was a landlord, I would do all that stuff. In the South down here, we have to worry about air filters for our central heating and air units. But when you're a bank, you got to just think about the mortgage company, man. They just don't. They don't come out and look at real estate. They just don't do it.
Now, again, it's all depending on the market you're in, the type of property you're buying, what's your personality type, what's your risk tolerance. These are all the things that matter. Now on my appliances, when I'm buying for my properties, I get the 7-year warranty on them because those things on the fifth year always seem to break.
Yeah, they ain't worth nothing now.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't last much. So, and every time you call a maintenance guy, it's $150 just for him to walk in the door before he even looks at it. So
dang,
on my appliances, when I buy them brand new, yeah, I get a 7-year warranty on them,
that's sweet
and
right there.
usually it pays for itself. Usually it
Yeah,
pays for itself.
they ain't lasting long at all, man.
Yeah.
So what is it? We got 40 people here. Dan, I was telling you about my. I did a video yesterday about a contract for deed I did, y'all. And I want to just make sure that we all understand Dan does repairs to his properties, right? And I don't want to break all of it down. Dan operates a little differently than I do.
Oh,
So I
much
want,
different. Much different.
yeah, it's like night and day. So Dan is a landlord. I do not promote people being a landlord. In my world, if you be a landlord, you're going to end up broke doing repairs, maintenance, vacancies, tenant turnaround.
But tell them how you do it because they know how I do it. Tell them how you do it.
So for me, we operate like a mortgage company. We provide home ownership for people that can't necessarily go out and get a loan. So we're looking for people that have a down payment, their credit is challenged, and they're looking for somewhere to live or invest. I finance investors too. And then we pass on home ownership, we pass on repairs, we pass on all the headache to the buyer. So we're in the business of financing people. Now, either way is fine. I don't care as long as you do one or the other. You could be a landlord or be. See, the problem for me is I spend too much in repairs. If I'm making like the rents in Virginia, they're only going to be $1,300 on an average. After taxes and insurance, there's so much cash flow going around if you got a mortgage. So you got one repair every year, 3, 4, 5,000. You got zero cash flow for the year.
Right.
Zero. And I don't think people talk about that enough, Dan, with this mess. You know, I frankly, I believe, I think the BRRR strategy is going to put you out of business, Dan.
The burst strategy, I think, works only if it's executed to perfection. And I don't recommend that strategy for new investors because new investors are not going to execute it to perfection because not
Heck
that they don't
no.
want to, but because they don't have the experience to
They
deal
don't
with
know
the
how.
challenges yet,
They don't know
right?
how.
Right. So, um, I don't recommend the burst strategy for someone that is new in the business, but I do recommend it to scale once you have an experience behind you.
But Dan, how do you win? Let's say I don't do this. I have done this, but I refuse. Here's in my mind, right? I've got a chip. You know, we all have things that are non-negotiable. For me, a non-negotiable is taking all the money out of a house. That is like I would never. That is like not even. I won't do it.
So in 2008, many of the people that literally failed, that fell on their asses, were primarily because they were over leveraged.
Me,
Yeah, I didn't. I kind of sounded, but I don't know, man. Sometimes when I'm talking to other investors, I'm embarrassed to say, not embarrassed, but I kind of don't want to say I didn't have a problem in 2008. I skated right through that.
wow.
Did my income drop? Yes, because the fix and flip side of the business dropped. But my rental income didn't go down. My cash flow didn't go down. My cash flow went up, right?
What?
So because I didn't have mortgages, like I didn't have my personal home was paid for. I had no car loans. I had no car debt. And the mortgages I did have, I was only maybe 30% in mortgage versus the equity, even when the equity came down, right? So
Wow.
no, like the burst system I think works if you use it responsibly.
What is
Just be,
responsibility, Dan? What does that mean?
so how many people, Chris, you that you and I both know, they do a flip, they got, let's say it's worth 100,000, but they have 50,000 into it. The bank says, we'll give you 85,000. They say, shit, give me the whole 85,000. Then they take that 85,000 and they say, I made 35,000. Come on, babe, let's go on a vacation. Well, you know what? Let me buy my wife a new car. Well, you know what? I always wanted that nice lanai and that big pool in my yard, right? None of that makes you money.
Mm,
None of that makes you money, number one. Number two, because they maxed out the loan, you got let's just say it's a four-family house. You got one tenant that didn't pay you. It hurts. You got two tenants ain't paying you, or two
yeah,
empty
true.
apartments. Now you got to dig into your pocket every month, right? Now, if you had just taken out the 50,000 that you had into the property, now you got no money, none of your own money in the property, right? The property's not fully leveraged, and you got two tenants that are not paying you. Not a big deal. Your mortgage is covered with the other two tenants because the two tenants not paying you is your profit because you didn't over leverage.
You in trouble, Dan. I have been there. I cannot tell you the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I pissed away between 2007 and 2010 carrying houses that were vacant, people not paying, just not knowing what the hell I was doing.
Yep. Is
Deborah said,
pulling equity from your home okay to get your first property?
hold on, you
Just had
jumped
that
to the bottom.
conversation today.
Good. You jumped to the
What do you
bottom.
think about that?
I only pull equity out of any of my real estate, either to buy more equity or to renovate that current property. That's it. Other than that, I don't want the money. See, you have to consider yourself a real boss keeps money in the street. And I'm not saying I'm better, right or wrong, dude. I promise y'all. This is the shit I done learned before I was trying to use everybody's money. A real player keeps money in the deal. When you hear all these people talk about borrowing it all, I'm like, man, I just couldn't make that system work, Dan. I just couldn't do it.
Just had that conversation today with my niece's husband.
Oh yeah? That's crazy how
Literally,
we be having
literally.
the same
I was
thought.
we were having brunch, and I just had that conversation with him today.
What do you
And
say?
I will tell the audience exactly what I told him. If you don't have the money to put 25% down on the property, you shouldn't be buying the property.
Don't do
If
it,
you
man.
got to borrow your 20% down payment, you shouldn't be buying that property. Number one. Number two, that's your personal home. Do you want to sacrifice your personal home where your where your spouse and your kids live in? I wouldn't. Number two, not under that circumstances, I wouldn't. Number three, I have taken money against my personal home on a home equity line that I still have. But I got a plan on how to pay that back within 3 months or 6 months max. I use my home equity line as a bridge loan. So I'll give you guys an example. I buy property for 200,000. Boom, done. But I need another $100,000 to renovate it. No problem. I'm going to go to my home equity line because it's the cheapest loan I'm going to get. Take that home equity line. 6 months from now, between renovating it, buying it, selling it, now I sell that property for 500,000. I pay back the 200,000 to the loan to the bank, rather to myself because I'm the bank. I put up the 200 and I pay that other $100,000 back to my home equity line. So I used it as a bridge loan. It wasn't the end all to be all loan. Because when you use that money as a down payment, what happens if something goes wrong with that house? Do you have
Yeah,
that property? Do you have the money to dig into your pocket every month to cover that loan?
yeah, that's something right there, bro. Deborah says, when renting, does the seller keep the homeowner's insurance on the property? Yes. Seller gotta keep. Well, Dan, you the one doing the renters. Do you keep homeowners insurance on the property where your tenants?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
When you rent a property, do you keep homeowners insurance on it?
Well, of course, they got. I keep an insurance policy, and my tenants have a renter's policy.
Kathy says, I'm in the process. Kathy feels I'm in the process of converting my rentals to slow flips, thanks to me and one of my mentors. You're welcome. Slow flips. Guys, once again, you got to understand whether you're going to be like Dan, be a landlord, or operate like the bank. And the good thing about it is, it's your choice. Your choice.
And
Uh,
by the way, Kris and I have become the bank for ourselves. You want to explain that to them, Kris?
well, it's two sides to that. Okay, so Dan is the bank. Let's just stay on the real estate side. Forget the financing side, because you do the same thing on land. See, I had to, and once again, y'all, I can't stress to y'all, man. You got to be around the right people. I want to ask y'all, put in the chat, how many millionaires and multimillionaires are in your phone that you can call right now today? Let me say that again. How many millionaires are in your phone? I know for a fact, and I ain't blowing up Dan. I can get on the phone, text Dan. I know he's made millions. He's just one, right? So if you don't have, if all you got is broke people on your phone, and it's no disrespect to broke folk, we can love on them, but they can't help you make money. They just can't. They don't know. Their thought process is not there yet.
If they knew how to make money, they'd have money.
But thank you for being honest. This is where I want to go. Allah says none, and you know, Allah, that was me. That was me 10 years ago. I had zero. I in fact had a friend of mine. I said, I forget his name. I'm like, I need to get better people around me. If you do not have millionaires in your phone, it's gonna be hard for you to become one. I promise you.
And you know what the
Because
crazy part is, Kris? In
what?
today's time, it ain't hard to be a millionaire.
It ain't. It ain't
You
that
know,
hard, Dan.
if you own a house for 30 years and it's paid off for, you pretty damn close to a millionaire, if not a millionaire,
You
right?
close.
So
You close.
it ain't hard to be a millionaire today. When I was a kid, people asked me what you're gonna be. I said a millionaire. How you gonna be a millionaire? I don't know yet. right? Now, if I was a kid, when I ask a kid, he tells me, "I want to be rich." All right, well, what does rich look like to you? He said, $1 million. I said, then you don't want to be rich. You want to be normal, right?
Wow.
If he tells me I want to be a multimillionaire, I say, okay, great. How does that look like to you? What is? How are you going to achieve that multimillionaire status? What's your plan, right? So no matter which way they go with that answer, they're screwed with me because I got another question behind it, right?
You know what, Dad? So my therapist, I got a therapist, right? I'm the same way. My kids or people, they're like, I want this. All right, boom. How we do it? Okay, boom. What's the next step? Boom, boom. You know what, Dan? That's because you've been trained. You've been trained, so you like, okay, I want
I,
this. All right, boom. What's the next step? All right, cool. We do this. Boom. All right, what's next? Boom, 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 boom. It's just the way you process, and that's healthy talking to guys like us,
right.
which you want to bring people over. You don't want them to just say, I want to be a millionaire. All right, y'all, let's watch a football game. We don't just say this shit just to say it.
Now, listen. The reality is this, man. I remember there was this one summer. It was about 25 years ago, and I had said I was gonna. My wife and I, we were gonna meet some friends and at a barbecue. It was a Fourth of July party. So it was like I get there and it's like 6 o'clock, right? And they all started getting on my case. Oh, I bet you were out there trying to make money on a holiday, and you're always late. And I'm like, what am I late to? Like, you didn't eat my beer, you didn't eat my food, you didn't eat my house. I'm coming here as a visitor, right? You didn't ask me for money. Like, what am I late to? To hang out? Yeah, I was working. So soon
You
after
crazy.
that, similar situation with a family member. And I remember saying to myself, I kept my mouth shut on both occasions, but the whole time I'm like, I need to get some different people around me because I'm looking at this holiday as an opportunity to outbeat my competition, to get ready for the next business day so I could be better prepared, so I could jump, be quicker, right? I could be thinking outside the box. They were looking at it like it was a day to get drunk and then the following day work over the hangover, get over the hangover. And I'm
Mm,
looking at it like I don't have the following day to get over a hangover. I need to work. I need to outbeat my competition. So I look at holidays when everybody's chilling, having fun as an opportunity to outbeat my competition.
I
We
love it.
didn't have the same mindset. By the way, I don't socialize with those people anymore. I don't have
Wow.
anything against them. I wish them all well, but we got nothing in common.
Your environment, y'all. You got to get around an environment. You have to. Lee Brown wants to know when you finance your property or the house is completely paid off and I just hold the note for the buyer. No. We talk about my contract for deeds and my lease options. Some of them I have debt on and some of them are free and clear, Lee. Okay. You can finance it. Did you know you can sell your house and finance it with a contract for deeds with a mortgage on it?
Yeah.
We can't get into all that stuff today, but yes, you can do it. My thing is today, I just want to keep your minds open, y'all, because I wasn't able to stay in business doing it conventionally.
No, and we got to get back to you have to recognize who you surround yourself with.
Oh my lord, it's so
You're
important.
not look, Chris and I met at a conference in 2019. I had stopped going to conferences. That was the first conference I had been to in about 5 years. That room that we were in, because of the tickets we bought, VIP tickets, was no less than 6,000 a head. And I was there with my partner. Chris said to me one day, I bought your friendship. Chris, do you want to explain to them what you meant by that?
Yeah, we put ourselves in rooms. We spend the money to put ourselves in rooms to raise our vibrations and the frequencies inside of our minds. You have to be around people that are on the right frequencies that you want to be on. It's the only way it's gonna work, dude. And usually, it's gonna cost some money. It's gonna cost some money.
And the reality is, I would say 90% of the people in that room were a lot wealthier than we were.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord.
Yeah,
Especially me. Yeah,
yeah. So,
uh
but you know what the best part was? Do you remember speaking to that arms dealer?
I think about him every time. Yeah, I was just thinking about the gun dude.
Right? We were talking to an arms dealer. He had nothing to do with the business we're in, and I came back with value ideas that he's using that I came back and implemented in my business.
That's something. I didn't even know what he did was a thing. I didn't know you could sell. But I thought selling buying selling guns was illegal. You know, my whole thinking was like he raised my whole. I'm like, damn, you buy and sell guns legally? I didn't even know that was a thing.
What about the other kid, that young kid who came with his dad? He was only like 16 years old. Kid was making $500,000 a year selling stuff online. Remember
Online,
him?
yeah, yeah, online. He was there with his dad. I interviewed him.
So I mean, guys, you know, you got to get yourself in the room.
That's
You
right.
got to get yourself in the room
What do you
with
think about?
with people that are at much higher economic level than you are, and it's intimidating
Oh yeah,
and it's scary.
humbling. It'll
But
humble
if
you.
you don't get yourself in that room, you're never going to learn how to do what they do.
Yeah, it's never gonna bring you up. That thing that when you feel real weird, that's actually pushing you to do better.
Yeah, I listen. There's think family functions and I, what. Let me ask you a question. The people that you really think are your friends, how smaller is that group as you climb up the scale?
Oh yeah, it's just a couple people. It's just a few people, man. And what's ironic is we have levels of people we trust, especially for Dan. Dan has to like some guys I know I can trust them with $100,000, no problem. And then I got my tenants that I have to trust them that they're gonna pay every month. You know, it's so much we have to trust our contractors, we have to trust our investors, we gotta trust our tenants, we gotta trust so many people that we have to trust as investors, man. It's just ludicrous.
So I don't look at it like I trust anyone. I trust the documentation that I have that's strong enough to hold them to that contractual obligation.
The
I don't
contract.
trust. Yeah, I trust the contract.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it, Dan. I never thought about it like that. So you could enforce that paperwork with the city, and it's hard to do where you at.
Yeah. But that's why my contracts have to be ironclad, whether they be my leases, whether they be partnership agreements, whether they be whatever it is, right? Contract to buy or sell a property. So I don't trust the people, I trust the contracts.
That's a good way to look at it. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely still, well, from my side, I depend on my people to do what they say, and we write it all down on paper. Wow, that's deep. Dan, what did Kathy Field says? What do you think about DSCR loans? I don't know.
So DSCR loans, in my time, we called them no income verification loans. That's how used to have be able. That's the only way I got my loans when I first started because I was self-employed, cash businesses. Banks don't like self-employed people, and they don't like cash businesses. Even they like cash businesses even less. So that was the only way I was able to get my loans. You're going to pay more money on the closing costs, and you're going to pay usually anywhere from a 0.5% to or percent more on the interest rate. But if that's the only way you're gonna get the loan, by all means, go for it.
Uh, oh, she's making a statement. Deborah says, I don't ask family questions. Don't ask people that aren't qualified to teach you the answer or qualified to answer. I never forget.
I
I
get
asked
all the
people.
time like, oh, but my sister said, all right, well, what did your sister do? She's a nurse. Okay. So then why are you asking me if I give you the answer and you're telling me your sister said something differently? Does your sister have the experience I have since 1989? But you know what? I'm not even going to try to sell you on why my answer's better for you. Go
They're
listen
not
to your
ready.
sister. I don't care. I
Not
don't.
ready.
It's don't. I'm not here to. You ask me a question, I answer it. Now I'm going to argue with you over what your sister said, who has nothing to do in the business. I don't tell your sister how to put a band-aid on someone or how to inject any insulin into someone or how to revive somebody. I'm not going to let your sister come and tell me how to make a deal.
You know what, Dan? I'll do coaching and stuff. I have another mentor for my coaching. He says whenever you feel that resistance when you're telling somebody something, you know how when you're saying something and they're not even receiving it. Do you know that they're not actually ready to receive it?
That's true. That is
They're
one.
just not.
That's a great synopsis. Yes, 100%.
I'll tell them something, and then they'll say, "Well, what about?" I'm like, "Didn't I just tell you?" And it's like, and I think about, I'm like, "What am I doing wrong?" But then my mentor says, "Chris, it's not you; it's the other person. They're
They're
not
not
ready.
ready. They're not ready.
There's nothing wrong with it. They're just not ready
Nope.
yet."
Nope. They're not ready. Chris, it's that time, man.
All right, yeah, 9:30. Round up. Listen, I'll see you tomorrow at 6:30. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Dan, what's your channel? How do they follow you?
You can go to my name, DanielBorreroJr.com. I do a free mentorship class every single Wednesday, or you can go to USA Land Ventures right up here, guys, on YouTube and follow me there.
Okay, Dan, I'll see you next Sunday. Thank you.
Take care. Good night, everyone.
Peace.